Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to the Races Driving League for Season 19, Round 9 of the Championship. Welcome to the circuit de Barcelona, Catalonia, for what should be a very, very exciting Spanish Grand Prix. I'm your host, Zach RC, here to take you through all the action of what should be a thrilling 9th round of the season. Of course, the season has been run away with so far by that of Salva Grumio, who, of course, comes in today with a 62-point advantage over last week's winner, Daniel Aron, in second place. Dan won last week in Monaco, looking to try and go back-to-back. Only the third race winner from the first 8 rounds of the season. Grumio has dominated, and here is one driver who wants, I think, won last week back. That would be Imri, who, of course, started on pole for the 4th successive race in Monaco, but wasn't able to convert it to the victory. He currently sits down in P5 now in the Drivers' Championship. 67 points to his name. In terms of the gap to Landlord, we're looking at about 6 points there. Landlord will be joining us later on during qualifying. Whether he joins us during Q1, I have to wait and see. But for now, it's just the one McLaren. Oh, there he is. Well, Landlord does join us now, so we've got a full 20 cars. But the 20 cars, a bit different this week in terms of who's behind the wheel. We've got 2 returning favourites back on the RDL grid for tonight's race. Imri will be teammate to Obsess tonight. Obsess Gamer 33, returning for the first time since Bahrain to reserve. And 10th Cannon also making her return to the league after her final race last season in Brazil. She'll be reserving in the Aston Martin in place of PJ. So it should be a very exciting race then. Majority of cars here in the field are full-time drivers. No quali bans to serve, so everyone's going to get a fair chance here to try and put themselves on pole as Imri rounds turns 13 and 14. Will that ghost of turn 13 around the entry of turn 13 still exist on this game? I have to wait and see. But Imri emerges from the last corner then. It's a long run down to that first turn as he begins his first flying lap, the first flying lap of this evening so far. And down towards turn 1, hitting 200 miles an hour. It heads down towards that first braking zone. Pushing it down to 4th gear, still near 100 miles an hour. Slightly wide on corner exit through turn 2, and now through that sweeping right-hander of turn 3. Imri keeping the car under control here. And into the first sector, 21.5 for Imri. Not a bad start at all as he rounds turn 4. Down the hill towards turn 5 now. A lot of elevation change in the circuit, the most particular in the second sector, which comes down and back up again. So into turn 7, of course, immediately with turn 8. Over that yellow sausage curb, which can catch the driver out. Yellow flags behind. And through the blind right at turn 9. Good exit. And near the end of that second sector, of course, under the bridge. 50.5, his second sector. Of course, Imri may be the benchmark early on here as one of the front runners. But one of the Haas cars in behind, that'd be either Che or Dan, one of the two. But as Imri rounds turns 13 and 14 now, we'll see him set the first time of the evening. Out of the final corner, Imri charges towards the line. 1 minute 11.967 on the start of the lap, for the first lap. And Dan, last week's winner, is coming through behind him. 1 minute 12.4, so Dan about half second off of the Red Bull early on. Next car around will be one of the RBs, I believe. And that is Ben. Ben, of course, scored in last week's race. So full-time points on his return to the league as a full-time driver. Over the line, it's P3 for Ben, 1 minute 13.902. Ben with his teammate in Alvar back this week. Of course, we're going to add a few. Oh, and Imri goes flying off into the gravel there, leaving turn number 4. Have to stop that car to allow the Sauber through of HB Cook. Sauber on his outlap there, so no threat of any time being lost on that front. Che invalidating there on his first lap. Ethan's gone third fast there, 1 minute 13.3 in the Aston Martin. See the next few cars coming towards the line. One of the Mercedes cars through next. That would be Pope about to start his first flying lap. Of course, Pope was up there with Dan the majority of the Grand Prix, but fell away towards the end as we switched over to the intermediate tyre. So look for Pope to try and get his redemption as he looks for win number 2 of the season. His first victory coming in back in Saudi Arabia just a few weeks prior to this one. Pope up to P6 in the championship, 65 points from the opening few rounds of his return this season, of course, and he's just 2 points back from Imri, so there's every chance that Pope could emerge from here potentially as high as 3rd place in the championship should results go his way. We'll have to wait and see. Of course, Pope was one of the drivers who was caught out by the bump on the entrance to turn 13. Ruined his race a few laps to go back in season, I think early on in season 18. But Pope entered the second sector now, 50.7, so only about 2/10 down on Imri's initial first time. So not bad, not too bad a start to the lap at all. We'll see how he finishes, obviously, rounds turn 12. And keeping the car nice and controlled there. Into turn 13, clearly avoiding any ghosts from previous Grand Prix round here. So he rounds the final corner to complete his first lap. Dan retires, and Pope goes second fastest, just in front of Dan there. Obsessed over the line to start his first lap. We'll see what pace is like. Of course, he finished in P6 in his last RDL Grand Prix in Bahrain. That was 5 weeks ago. So it's been about a month or so since Obsessed has been behind the wheel in the RDL. So there goes Grumio emerging out onto the racetrack here for the first time. Of course, defending champion, winner of many races this season so far. He's won 6 of the first 8. As we are nearing now the halfway stage of the season, Pope's won a race, but Grumio's been in dominant fashion. He's been in dominant form and unable to be stopped. As I say, 62 points is the gap he brings to today. Over Dan, of course, as I say, won last week's race in Monaco, but Grumio wasn't there for that Grand Prix, a race that he's won frequently in the past. As there goes Cott into 4th place. Landon in P6, so everyone's all about here. There's Curtis end of the first sector, 21.7 for the Ferrari. Curtis up to P13 in the championship now. He's got 14 points to his name. Of course, that helped with Ferrari's tally. But they run P9 in the Constructors right now, only in front of RB by 5 points and 6 points behind the Aston Martins that stands, and another 3 forward to 7th place Sauber. So the back of the field is still awfully close at this stage of the season. And the Haas team now lead the Constructors' Championship by just 4 points over Williams after the sensational victory last time out. Of course, only Dan scoring points. Che, unfortunately, retiring over the course of the race. Of course, you think back to the opening lap collision between him and Imri as they were fighting for the lead in the exit at turn 1. Dan took full advantage of that and went on to take a comfortable victory over the course of the next 78 laps. But, of course, back to half length today. So 33 laps awaiting us in this evening's race. Caught there P4. Of course, didn't have a fantastic race last time out for either Alpine. Caught with 39 points to his name this season. But 10 minutes to go and 13 cars set lap time so far. 6 of the remaining 7 all out on circuit now. Only Courtney Goblin in the pit lane. There's Grumio. And a 50.3, which is 2/10 up on Imri's initial time. So Grumio could be, again, on top here. And as always, despite having missed a race last week, Grumio never loses a yard of pace as he rounds turn 14. End of his first lap, charging towards the line. He used all his battery up and goes fastest, 1 minute 11.817. So a 10.5 quicker than Imri then. It's awfully close to the top, but it's those two in the 111 so far. Pope in 3rd, Dan 4th, and Cott in P5. Curtis and EJ doing fantastic Ferrari there. P6, P7, Alvar in 8th place. The RB team trying to come alive now. Landlord P9, so again, as it was last week, not fantastic. I can see Landlord and AT running the new Chrome McLaren, of course, used at the British Grand Prix and brought into the game I believe just last week. Of course, the option is there to use that car in online races. Although I think something's up with the skin there because that is clearly Lando Norris's helmet. As Lando starts his next lap. So Landlord backing off there. One of the RBs just there in front. That'll be Ben. P15 right now. Of course, we'll lose the bottom 5 at the end of the session. Obsessed is there in P14. 10th Cannon is currently the first car out in P16. As HP Cook may have had some kind of altercation up at turn 13. No damage done to that car, so maybe I just lost it a bit. I'm not too sure. Into the pit lane then. As it stands, Sauber slightly more on the edge than they might be used to. Ericsson there in P17. He's one of the cars going out. AT, Cotney, and JB all yet to get laps in, but AT back on circuit again. Pope retiring there from P4. Chase up to third fastest now. He's retiring too. Just waiting on Cotney Goblin and JB here to come out at that times. AT saving some battery there. Of course, the track slightly quieter at this stage. And Ben's found the gravel there at exit turn 3. And that's something you want to avoid doing. He gets himself moving again. Letting his teammate go. So good teamwork there from the two RB cars. Alvar P10 at the moment. So as it stands, obviously on for Q2. And Ben is the last car in the cutoff. So you're going to need a 113 in minimum in order to have it stand a chances to get yourself into Q2. 10th is the first car out, 1 minute 14.058. JB on the racetrack now. He's just going through turn. We're going towards turn 6 now. AT though going into turn 4. It'll be interesting to see whether AT can match his teammate in this case, because landed down the order in P11. In qualifying this week and last, leaving a bit to be desired. At least so far, of course. This is only Q1, so we'll give it a bit of time and see exactly what these guys have up their sleeves. 51-0 from AT. About half a second down on Imri's time, 7/10 off Grumio. Into the last two corners here and looking for a clean end to this part of the session. 5.5 minutes to go as AT comes towards the line. It'll be 1 minute 12.8. That's enough for That's enough for 8th place on the in the order. Lando down to P12 then, and that'll move Ben below the cut line. So JB then is looking to try and get himself out of that bottom 5. Cotney Goblin yet to emerge on the circuit, but he's still got 5 minutes. So he's got time for one more run at least. So towards turn 9 then, we'll see what JB's got up his sleeve for the end of the second sector. So 51.5. So likely looking at a time for JB here, either in the high 12s or sort of low to mid 13s. As he pilots his Williams into the last two corners. Out towards the line for JB then. It's a low 13, 113.3. It's enough for 13th place on the grid. Well, not on the grid, just in the order. A lot of 13s. HB Cook now the last car going through. Obsess is the first car out. Ben looking to try and rectify his previous lap. 10th, Ericsson, Cotney, Obsess to bottom 5, all in the pit lane of the minute. Of course, Grumio and Cox are both in the pit lane. Of the top 6, they're the only two to have not retired yet, but both of them definitely through. Websy P7, AT P8, Alvar P9, and Curtis P10. And it's EJ, Landlord, JB, Ethan, HB Cook going through right now. Of course, Grumio leading Imri by a 10.5. And it's another quarter of a second back to Che. And from there, about a tenth or so to Pope. So the top 4 not separated by too much here. Top 7 covered by a second. 2 seconds covers the next 16. Obsessed on that lap, 10th also on the outlap. Quite a lot of dust there on that Aston Martin. This 10th lets the Ferrari go. It'll be Curtis going through to complete another lap. We'll see what he's got lined up. He's improved up to P10. There goes 10th blasting past then. And And Wallace 10th have a post leave. Cot retiring, so he's safe. P5 for now, 6/10 off of Grumio's top time. And I can see Cockney Goblin emerging from the pit lane with Ericsson behind him. Or in front of him, rather. There goes Obsessed onto what could be his final lap. Improving by 0.5. He needs about a 10.5 or so as Landlord retires. P12 for Landlord, so under a bit of pressure there. 1.2 off of Grumio. But Landlord taking a slight risk here. We see a few cars improving below him. There's still 2 minutes to go, so plenty of time for that to happen. Obsessed then up by 3.5 now, so plenty of time being gained here. That could see him out of the bottom 5 here and into Q2 potentially. Can he nail the last sector here through turns 13 and 14 for what could be the last time on a proper run? Oh, he's about at the end. A 1:13.2, and that would have been enough, without a shadow of a doubt, to get himself in, or maybe it was enough to get him at least into the top 15 for now, but he might have cost himself massively there with that. And that looked like such a strong lap for Obsessed. And that could see him out. 10th P13 now. HP Cook rounds the last corner. This could be enough to put JB back in the bottom 5. Up towards the line. Up to P14 for HP Cook. It's not over yet, but he's giving himself a good shout. 40 seconds left. Ben going for one more lap here. JB was on his last lap. Oh no, Ben's pitting. Right, it's not to do with Ben then. Ben is out of qualifying. He's the first car guaranteed to be going out. Cockney Goblin here rounding turn 12. How high can he place himself? Ericsson's best time 1:29.3. We're near the checkered flag. Grumio retires. P19 for Cockney. Checkered flag has fallen. P19 for Ericsson. Both cars are out. Obsessed Gamer and going for one more lap here. One last chance. What can he do? JB is going through turn 8 now. He's 2/10 up. He could be on the verge to put Ethan out. So JB improving by 3/10 there. So he's doing enough to get himself perhaps instead of the top 10 here. Final few corners. Can he hold on to it? And JB to get himself into the top 15. Up to P15 there. Lost a fair bit of time that last sector, but did enough to put Ethan out. Unless Obsessed can improve by several tenths, that should be JB through. Can Obsessed deny him at the last? Final corner. And towards the line. P18 in the end. Well, there you have it. Ethan, Ben, Obsessed, Ericsson, and Cockney Goblin all out of qualifying. JB then squeezes in. Grumio and Imri fastest then in Q1. The only cars to hit a 1 minute 11 seconds over the course of the session. There's a long way to go though, and of course we'll see much faster times than that over the course of qualifying tonight. But in terms of your first session, then Grumio fastest by a 10.5 to Imri. Che in third, Pope fourth, Cotton fifth. And it's Dan, Websy, EJ, AT, and Curtis your top 10. Alvar, Landlord, 10th Cannon, HB Cook, and JB all go through. And Ethan, Ben, Obsessed, Ericsson, and Cockney Goblin. Unfortunately, we lose those 5 cars here at the end of this first session. But still a lot more qualifying to come. And of course, the next session will determine who gets into the top 10 to fight for pole position in Q3. So time now then for Q2. So we're still down to 15 cars. And we'll see which of those 15, it could be any of them, who will head off into Q3 with a chance to fight for pole. Grumio and Imri obviously fastest to kick things off. And there is Imri emerging from the pit lane with one of the Haas cars there in front. That'll be Dan. First car out of the circuit then in this new session. And we'll see now who's got the speed as things start to heat up. Of course, Haas, in terms of their start to the season last year as a partnership with Dan and Che, where in that partnership they were sort of winning from the off against Grumio. This season it's taken them a little while to get up to speed. Last week was their first victory of the season as a team. And obviously momentum, while they haven't actually won a lot of races, has still been in their favour. They still lead the constructors by 4 over Williams in second place. So we'll see whether this is the start of a run that could help them try and close back in on Grumio individually in the Drivers' Championship. But Dan, as of right now, is currently the biggest threat to Grumio's lead. Che, 90 points back so far. Of course, Mr. Racer 2, last week's result in Monaco wasn't favourable for Che solo the garage. But Dan, though, has been on it, especially at the start today. But Grumio still topped Q1. Dan's inside that top 5. See the McLarens emerging onto the racetrack themselves. Going together here, so looking potentially at a tow for those guys in play. Teamwork afoot for McLaren. 21-4 for Dan. End of the first sector. Imri's in behind him, so we'll keep an eye on Imri's time as well. 21-6 for Imri. So Dan leads by 2 tenths, apologies. Up towards turn 9. We got commit to turn 9. 50.6 for Dan. 50.7 for Imri. So about a tenth now separating them. So that gap's closed a bit. Who is fast in the last sector? So we'll get that first edge here in Q2. We expect to see both of these 2 cars into Q3 later on. Out to turn 14. Dan fastest, 1 minute 12.2. Imri faster still, 1 minute 12.1. So, the first sector went to Dan, but the second and third sectors went to Imri. Curtis goes third fastest there. Che is in behind both of those guys. Yeah, saw a car on the gravel there. Che crossed the line, goes fast himself. 1 minute 11.9. And showing up both his teammate and their closest rival so far in qualifying. Che fastest. And on pace, around Grumio's pace, as he rounds turn, that goes down towards turn 5. I'm just saying, sorry, there's damage on the Grumio machine. And that's big wing damage. It must have been him that I saw for a second as I was flicking through. Well, that'll put a damper then on the man who topped Q1 on his first run. In behind him, one of the Ferraris coming through. And Landlord too. But Landlord may have backed off for some stage in the lap because he doesn't seem to be on pace. Save battery, he's going again now. So this will be his first proper lap. Nope, in he comes. Behind him, Curtis pitting. Both cars calling it quits. HV Cook P7 there in the Saba. Just the one Saba going through. Ericsson knocked out. Cop pulling over there to allow a few cars past. There'll be AT there, P4 in the other McLaren. Pope. Sorry, Lando went back in the pits. Pope's on the circuit. He just come out for what should be, I think, is his first run of the session. Of course, as usual, we'll probably see a number of these guys going on their worn tyres from Q1. And look for fresh sets on their second. Cop there going again. Of course, Cop, one of the drivers who's already scored a pole position this season. Oh, right he goes! Saved it. But definitely could have done without that. So Cotton will likely stay raised in P11. So we've seen a fair few mistakes then at turn 3 so far. Caught obviously sliding there. We saw Ben take a trip through the gravel. So turn 3 then, tough to get right when you're on the limit. So likely we'll see Cot going again for another effort at some stage. I wouldn't surprise me if he still pits this time. Yep, in he comes. So Cot's first run called off. Grimion is out lap here, fresh wing on that car. EJP 13, Pope down on his lap, 21.4 in the first sector. So pace not quite there in sector 1 for Pope. .5 pace returning for sector 2. Two more corners to go. Oh, around goes Pope. And a second driver has cooked it there at some stage of the lap. As Imre goes fastest. 1 minute 11.883. So Imre on his fresh set. And Pope struggling there then. 125.1 on the board. Websy, Cot, Grimion, and Landlord all yet set times. That's 4 very fast drivers who could serve a threat in qualifying. As Landlord gets a great toe there of AT at turn 1. AT taking a trip through the grass there to sacrifice his lap for Landlord. As Grimion only goes third fastest there. 1 minute 12.1. Is that his fresh set of tyres? Did he use those for his last run? But Landlord, though, that's a good start to his lap. I imagine we see improvements from him over the course of it. We'll see how much he improves in the second sector as he comes through towards turn 9. Car under control. It's a 50.8. So it should be a Q3 time. Of course, got out-qualified in the first session by his teammate AT. He's up there in P5 now. Landlord only P12 in Q1, but it's enough to get through. Imre retires. Imre likely safe in Q3. Yellow flag behind him, but Landlord goes through. P6, but 2 tenths back from his teammate. EJ, Alvar, Curtis, and HP Cook make up the rest of the top 10. Both Alpines yet at lap time. So Webster's on the circuit. 21.4 in his first sector. Cot is going for the last sector now to begin his next run. So Cot begins what will be another attempt at a run here. And we'll keep an eye out to ensure that he still makes it past turn 3 without any issue. In through turn 3. Carrying a lot more speed this time. Keeping the car under control. End of the first sector, 21-4 for Cott. Same as his teammate. So obviously rounds turn 14 now to complete his lap. It's 1 minute 12.688. That's enough for Q3 as it stands right now. So that's P7 for him. EJ currently the last car going through 1 minute 13.1. As was the case in the last session at this point, you need about 1 minute 12 to advance, I think minimum. And obviously we saw that change later on in the session as Cott comes through to complete his second sector. 50.4, that's a good time there. So expect to see Cott higher up than his teammate. Positioning his car there for the last 2 corners. And up towards the line then, it is going to be fastest time for Cott. What a turnaround that is. So Cott fastest, and all of a sudden, the Alpine team is here to play. Both cars into the top 10. Everyone having now set a lap. Only car yet to set a lap, like a proper lap, to get a full time in his Pope. Obviously had that spin, leaving turn 14 in his last run. There's 3.5 minutes to go. Pope is out right now. And looking then for any sort of improvement he can make. Just 4 cars as it stands on the track right now, setting times. In terms of currently on a lap. EJ completes his first sector, improving by a 10th there. Dan currently in 5th place, 2.5 seconds down. Lando retires again from P7, so a place that's not guaranteed a slot in Q3. But of course, I'm sure we trust in Lando in this case. Obviously, P12 then towards the end of Q1, but made it. EJ improved by 4/10 there. That'll put him to around Curtis's time as Curtis retires. So Curtis, I think, under a bit more risk than Lando is. EJ gunning for a Q3 appearance then. Towards the line. Improves to P10. So found some time in the end, but only enough for 1 place. And he's just under a 10th in front of Alvar in P11. And I can likely see Pope improving at least a little bit here in this final sector. He's 2/10 down on his last lap, but of course will gain about another 12 seconds from this last sector here. So we'll see where he ends up. Pope, so trying to avoid giving it the beans too much out of turn 14. Keeps the car under control. And towards the line, 6th place for Pope. That'll put EJ out for the time being. 1.5 minutes to go. Dan retires from session. Lando down to P8 now. 10th Cannon there. Improved by a 10th in her first sector. Sector 2. More of the same here. 6/10 improvement. Let's take it to around 1:13.1, which isn't enough to get out of Q2 yet. Can she find more time in these last 2 corners? Towards the line. Up to P12 for 10th. Improved by almost a full second there. But as of right now, mere milliseconds, about 200ths or so off of Q3. Cott's time still fastest. It's Imri, Che, Grumio, Daniel top 5. Pope, AT, Lando, Websy, and Curtis. The bottom 5 currently in terms of the cars going through. Bottom 5 in terms of elimination is EJ, 10th, Alvar, HB Cook, and JB. Oh, JB sliding there. Around he goes. And that may well put a dampener on the end of JB's Q2. With only 30 seconds to go. Not enough time to get around to repair that wing or even go for another lap here. I dare say that's JB's qualifying over. And a tough end to Q2 there. So looking like a P15 start for JB in the Grand Prix. HB Cook down by 4 seconds. He thinks he's likely out as well. Alvar here. Can he get himself into Q3. Only needs about a tenth or so, to 10th and a half to get himself through. He's down by 200 at the end of the first sector. 10th Cannon, I think, out of qualifying 2. I think everyone in the top 10 likely safe except for Curtis. 10th doesn't improve. She's out. HB Cook won't improve. He is out. But Alvar, though, keep an eye on Alvar. What can he do this late in the session? He's found 200s this time. He needs a bit more in this last sector. He needs about a tenth from here to get himself into Q3. Can he nail it for RB and get himself into that last part of qualifying? Round the final corner up towards the line. It comes down to this. Who makes it through? Alvar or Curtis? Curtis makes it through. And Alvar couldn't find a lot of time in that last sector. Webster goes 7th fastest. So Curtis squeezes through by 17 thousandths of a second over his teammate. EJ joining 10th. Alvar, HB Cook, and of course the retiring JB in the bottom 5 there. Webster up to P7. But this time Cott topping Q2 on the same sort of pace as Grumio was in the first part of qualifying. And Imri, there again, looking at high 11s. 3 cars there setting high 11s. Cott, Imri, and Che. So keeping out those guys as well in the latter stage of qualifying here. So there's your results. Cott from Imri, 18,000 of a second there. Che in 3rd place, a 10th cover in the top 3. Grumio 4th, Dan 5th, and then Pope, Websy, AT, Landon, and Curtis will join those 5 guys in Q3. EJ, 10th Cannon, Alvar, HB Cook, and JB all find their conclusion to the session here. But overall, a second cover in the top 13. That's still very close. But now it's time to get pole position for the 9th time this season. It's time for Q3. So into Q3 then, and time to decide who will take pole position for the Spanish Grand Prix. In terms of teams getting their cars through, got looking at both Haas cars, both Alpines, both McLarens. And from there, it's 1 Williams, 1 Ferrari, 1 Red Bull, and who am I missing? Sorry, one Mercedes, there we go. And that's Pope. So, out into circuit then, and the first few cars. Dan is the first car out once again. We'll see what he's got. I think I have to agree with the chat there. I think we'll definitely be looking at a time sort of around the mid to high 11s there. We've been hitting high 11s in Q1 and Q2 when these guys aren't fully on it, but of course, Q3 being the spectacle that is each week. So we'll just wait now for Dan to get round and see what he's got lined up for us. So Dan, last corner then. Let's run on board with Dan as he traverses the first sector. .21.3 for Dan then. Good start to the lap. Down towards turn 5, keeping the car under control. Of course, last week's winner Qualified third for that race, but took full advantage on the race start. And the race start was imperative to him winning that race, given how tough it is to overtake in Monaco. But this is an entirely different beast to Spain. Several DRS zones, best place to overtake down at turn 1. We saw a fantastic fight between Gremio and Dan's teammate Che in last season's race. Gremio took him out on top after a thrilling last lap scrap between those two cars. Che had the lead for a second, but Gremio got it back. Yellow flag in the fight in the second sector. That's one of the Alpines around. All recovered, no concerns. Well, check on that in a second. As Dan comes towards the lines to complete his first lap, 1 minute 11.8 on the board. And it was Cott who's gone around. So Cott, of course, spun out at turn 3 on his... Oh, there it goes again. And I'm not sure what Cott has done on his setup this evening, but I'm wondering if control is a concern from his. Che goes fastest by 1,000th of a second there over his teammate. Pope into third. And Curtis finding the pit entry. Imrie invalidated his first lap, so work to be done then for the Red Bull. Whether he stays out for a second lap, or whether he just pits straight away, I have to wait and see. But Che fastest then. Gremio third is close to between those three drivers. This could be a fantastic quali. 80 comes through P5. Next car to land will be Che again. Cott returns to the pits. Curtis is in. Alando is also in, and Imrie coming through the last sector now. I think likely we'll see him pit this time. And he comes in, so a disappointing first run for Imrie to have validated there. See the two Haas cars joining him in the pit lane now. Webb's into the last few corners now. This is his first lap, 50.7 in his second sector. Up towards the line then, and it will be P6 from the grid so far. Minute 12.3. Cott, Curtis, Lando and Imrie. All yet set valid times. Curtis heads back on the circuit. So we definitely see, I reckon, one more run from at least every driver. The question is, who will take pole? Of course, in terms of poles this season, the majority of poles have gone to Che. He's got the most with 3. Imrie has 2. Gremio has 1. Cott's also got the 1 as well. Obviously, in the majority of other tallies in terms of stats, Gremio leads the way. Most wins, most podiums. 7 podiums in the first 8 races as well. So 100% podium record, similar to that of Michael Schumacher back in, I believe it was 2002. As Curtis starts his next lap. So Curtis is the only car currently setting a lap time as it stands. Cott is coming through. Of course, he's going to try and recover himself after that spin on his first run. Of course, in a few places on this lap, on this circuit rather, where Cott has found trouble. Here's one of them through turn 3, but this time keeping the car under control. 21.3 is first sector. Up towards turn 7 and 8. Through 9. And near the end of that second sector now. We'll see what sort of time he's putting up. Of course. Oh, 50.1. That's okay. That's a good sector. Of course, Cott, one of the cars to top the session. Last 2 corners. What, can Cott put himself on provisional pole towards the line? He can do that. 111.817. Look how close it is in the top 4. Look at this gap. A quarter of a tenth, or just over a quarter of a tenth, covering the top 4, and a tenth, and a hundredth of a second covering the top 3. That's fantastic stuff. And qualifying's nowhere near done yet. We've still got more runs to come. But fantastic pace and show from everyone here. And everyone's has set the time so far within a second of each other. It's, I think that's, yeah, if I double check, that's 7 tenths covering the 8 cars and set valid lap times. Whether that will change when Landau and Imrie come through, I have to wait and see. But these guys were all covered by a second in Q2. So same thing there. Landau 50.7 is second sector. Imrie back on the circuit. Looking to redeem himself from his last run. Landau through turn 12. He's been scrapping with his teammate AT in terms of starting spot and finishing order in terms of these first 2 sessions. Can he out-qualify his teammate where it matters most? Last corner for Landau. Curtis retiring. And Landau into P8. Curtis then calling it quits. It'll be P9 at best from on the grid. And that's if Imrie fails to get a lap in. But Imrie, the lone car on the circuit coming out to set a lap time. And for a second I thought I saw wing damage, but there's nothing left on there. No concern. So 3 minutes to go now. I'll be nearing the point where everyone starts coming out for their final runs. Imrie now, what as a clean empty racetrack, what could be his last lap of the session. Down towards turn 1. And it's crucial here for Imrie that it doesn't end up missing out in terms of starting spot. P10 would not be a good starting place for him to try and bounce back after Monaco. And given how tight the margins are in that top 4, it's going to be a very, very close end to quali. The lock-up there you saw through turn 5. We'll see how much that impacts him. Rest of the pack now starting to emerge. 2 minutes to go. And Imrie, 50.3. He's going to need a good last sector to try and contend with the top 4. You saw Cott with a 50.1. And that was just to get himself in front of Che by 8 thousandths. Final 2 corners for Imrie, looking for his 3rd pole of the season. Out of the final corner. And towards the line. What has Imrie got lined up? Imrie goes fastest. And found a lot of time in that final sector. And all of a sudden, it's game on. 1 minute 11.6 for Imrie. He goes fastest. Pole number 3 could be incoming if Cott, Che, Dan, or Grumio, or Pope can't beat him. It's anyone's game at this point. The entire top half of the grid covered by less than a second. Even back to Curtis there in P10. And everyone, I think Landau's going to miss out in terms of time. But obviously, he made his run earlier. It's P9 for Landau, I should think. Imrie backing off, and it's all he can do now is just sit and wait. Bring his car back to the pits and see if he can keep that pole position. Che on his last lap. Pope on his last lap. Final minute of Q3 now. And this is where things get interesting. The pressure is well and truly on. Imrie retiring there. So calling it quits at turn number 7. Pope fastest. That's a good first sector from Pope, improving a bit. Imrie's pulls his car over. No concern to the cars on the circuit. Should despawn before Pope gets there, I should think. There we go. It's through turn 9 now. Dan improved a little bit there in his first sector. And there's not a lot needed here. Checkered flag has fallen. Pope is the first car to the line. Through turn 12. Final corner. Can Pope try and take pole? Stays in P6. Che towards the line. And Che loses out by 6 thousandths. Next car through is Landlord. Stays in P9. Cott stays in P3. Dan towards the flag. What can he do? Dan stays in 4th. Grumio, though, is a quarter of a second up in his second sector. Can he take it at the last? If he can't take it, I think Imri's got it. Final corner for Grumio towards the line. Can the champion take it? He can take it! And by 41 thousandths of a second, unless Websy or AT have anything in the tank on these final runs, Imri denied pole at the last. P7 for Websy. P8 then for AT. But Grumio then at the last second snatches it. Grumio with a time there of 1 minute 11.559. And the top 5 covered by less than a quarter of a second. The whole top 10 covered by less than a second. So Grumio fastest from Imri, Che, Cotton Dan, Pope, Websy, AT, Landlord, and Curtis. That's your top 10. And it's time now to head into our brief intermission. We're back to do in a few minutes' time. Let's start the Grand Prix. So here we go, then, about a minute away or so from the start of the Spanish Grand Prix. Round 9 of the Races Driving League Season 19. And if qualifying is anything to go by, then we are in for an absolute spectacle over the next 30 minutes. There is the track. 33 laps coming your way. Grumio the defending winner and Grumio the pole sitter. Denying Imri there at the very end of Q3 and looking for what could be his 7th win of the season. 7 wins from 9 rounds. He leads this championship by 62 points to Dan in 2nd place. But 14 corners, a fantastic circuit. 2 DRS zones, one going down towards turn 1 and one into the last sector in turn 10. Of course, the circuit last modified back in 2023 to bring it back to its original layout. And of course, this could be one of the last few Grand Prix we see in the RDL, this circuit, obviously for a while. Obviously, with talks in the making eventually that Barcelona could be dropped. It could be this game and next will be the last Grand Prix we see in the RDL and in real life on this circuit. But we're just waiting now for the formation lap to get underway. No one readying up early this week. Cott last week took 3 penalty points on his license for readying up early in last week's race in Monaco. No qualifying ban, and I'd say he's taken advantage of that fact. Solid qualifying from both Alpines, getting themselves into the top 10. It'll be Grumio and Imri on the race towards turn 1. Grumio looking for another win. Imri looking to try and redeem himself from last week. And still riding that same winless streak as he has done since back in season 16. It's been over a calendar year since Imri last took victory. Could today be the day? So as the foremost lap begins, then it's time to have a look at your RDL Spanish Grand Prix starting lineup. So from the back of the grid, it's Cottony Goblin in P20. He starts on the medium tyre for this one. Everyone on the mediums except for 3 starts in the softs and 1 the hards. Ericsson at P19, medium tyres for him as well. Cottony not pulling away from the grid there. Could be a concern. Obsessed returning as a reserve this week in P18. Soft tires for him. Ben, P17 hot off of that point score last week. Medians for him as well. Ethan, P16, first car out of Q1 in the Aston Martin soft tyres going onto that machine. JB in P15, of course, crashed going on to his last lap in Q2. Starts 15th. HB Cook P14, leading the charge for Sauber there as he's trying to get himself some more points. They're currently 23 back from Alpine for 6th place in the championship. Alvar P13, median tyres for him as well. 10th Cannon, again, another driver reserving tonight, making her a first race since Brazil last season. Median tyres for her. EJ narrowly missed out on getting both Ferraris into Q3. Soft tyres for that starter. Curtis, though, did make it into Q3. He lines up in 10th place on the mediums. Loudon and AT together again, 9th and 8th on mediums as well. Websy and Pope, same thing. Both those cars looking for stronger results this week because Pope's trying to win his second Grand Prix of the campaign. Dan P5, the lone hard tyre starter. Cotton P4, one of the cars to have held provisional poles during qualifying. Che in 3rd place, Imri in 2nd, and Grumio then hunting that 7th win from 9 rounds to continue on his utter dominance this season. Currently going to disqualify from the formation lap, so Ericsson will be the last car round. And we ask now, what awaits us over the course of the next 33 laps of racing? It should be an absolute nail-biter of a race. And here come the lights then. Waiting for them to get underway. Here we go, 5 lights are on for the Spanish Grand Prix. Round 9 of the season, Grumio and Imri on your front row. Lights out, foot to the floor, and we are racing here. Fantastic start from Grumio. Imri gets bogged down off the line. Che takes 2nd place to run down towards that first corner. Long run to turn 1, and Websy and Cott. Websy, fantastic start there in the Alpine into the first corner. Grumio leads from Che. Websy looking for 3rd place off Imri there as they go through towards turns 2 and towards turn 3. Imri holds on. Websy in P4 then. Fantastic start for both Alpines. Cott maintains P5. Lalo in 6th. Pope 7th down 8th. Curtis 9th and AT are top 10. Everyone keeping things nice and steady here to make our way through the end of the first sector. Grumio in control. And Lando losing a place there. Oh, a car from the background. That's one of the Ferraris. EJ finds the gravel, leaving turn number 5. And EJ then down to the back of the pack on those soft tyres. Not a fantastic start. And again, the Ferraris sought that same curse of opening laps being dramatic for them in some way. Curtis, though, fighting AT out of turn 9, going towards 10 here. Can he outbrake the McLaren going into the left-hander? He can't. AT gets himself alongside and may well clear Curtis going into turn 12. Let's say side by side. A bit of a slide from AT on corner exit allows Curtis to slide through and take P13 away. They're still side by side. AT ran off the circuit a bit there, but Grumio leads the first lap. Che 2nd, Imri in 3rd. Websy, fantastic start from him. Look at that, 3 places gained. Obsessed up 4, several cars up 3 places. HB Cook and Cotley Goblin and Ethan all up 3 with Websy. But Obsessed Gamer up 4. On those soft tyres, it doesn't feel like he's been away a minute so far. But everyone almost single file at this stage. No one going for it at the minute. No one going for any particular moves. So we found our opening order then. And Grumio controlling this thing. And we're trying to establish a lead over Che. It was these two pulled away for a very dramatic finish last season. Grumio won that on that occasion too. And Imri there in 3rd place could try and service the wild card. It's clear he's got the pace to try and match these two tonight. And closing a bit on Che there as Grumio seemed to expand his lead a bit there. And the main points of attack will be at that last corner. Wanting good exits for all of these guys. Websy and Cott nose to tail as they come through the last corner. What can Che do? Can Che try and take the lead of the Grand Prix for the first time? Fastest lap for several cars here. As Che goes blasting past Grumio. Imri may try it as well. Oh, contact! And both cars holding onto it. A bit of a tap there between from Grumio to Imri. But both cars controlled fantastically by their respective pilots. And Che now leads the way. Top 6, bit of a train here. Landon on a second behind, out of DRS range now. He's under pressure from Curtis behind him behind Dan, in 8th place. Curtis in 9th and AT in your top 10. So the cars in the top 10 unchanged. Of course, their order has changed in these first 2.5 laps. Che now leads. So McLaren there, 3rd place in the Constructors' Championship right now, 55 points off the lead. I think the title picture is definitely just between Haas and Williams. Of course, Matthew been out injured for a little while. So Imri's been the lone point scorer for Red Bull. So this goes down to 4th place in the standings as a result. Out to turn 14 again. And Che's built a fantastic advantage there. Fastest lap, 1 minute 15.5, but Grumio closing in again. May try a late move for the lead there. Nope, keeps himself in line, and that won't help his case with Imri. Right up his chuff there in 3rd. Behind it's all single file except for Ben and Obsessed side by side into turn 1, and Ben will win out on this occasion. He goes through turn 2, clearing the Red Bull behind him. So Obsessed then not bulletproof despite that dramatically good start. Up 2 places now. Ethan's up 4. So he's got his teammate, this is current teammate for tonight in 10th Cannon, on his tail. Che by 8/10 and yellow flag behind, and that is EJ's 2nd time instant here on the circuit for the Ferrari. Lost it at turn 9. Is there damage in that car? I assume there is. Yes, there is. End plate loss. And a fair chunk of wing lost there for EJ. That'll likely be a first pit stop. On to lap 5 now. It's still all single file the rest of the way. Ben has pulled 8/10 then on Obsessed since we last saw him. But EJ will likely be that first stop of the Grand Prix. Yes, in he comes. And a tough break for EJ. Those soft tyres looking for a strong first stint, but not to be. 10 seconds of speed in the pit lane there. He entered there awfully fast. And he's retiring it. So early retirement then from EJ. So down a car then in this race already is 10th Cannon, losing 2 places there. It's falling down to P15. Imri a lot closer to Grumio than Grumio is to Che right now. And you've seen Grumio closing in on the Haas for the lead, but not been able to make a move on the last 2 occasions. But Imri closer to Grumio this time round. Could we see a move for 2nd place potentially? The train still out front here, and Landlord back inside DRS range. But he's got down in his tail too. Down towards turn 1. Grumio closing on Che a fair bit, but not enough to make a move. And Imri, same thing. He saw it down, move out of line there for a second, let's put back in. So no move being made in that front. It's all single file so far. ERS, everyone's still got a solid amount. I think Imri's about half his tank left there. Of course, we've seen Imri in the past in terms of obviously ERS management returning for F1 24, and the big story in the last 2 seasons was keeping an eye on how people manage their ERS, having to do it manually with 4 different modes to play around with. Obviously, by this point, that rule's been in effect for almost 2.5 seasons. Out to turn 14 again. Grumio a lot closer this time round. And there should be a lead change, I imagine. Yes, there he goes. So Grumio takes the lead. But unlike the last lead change, I haven't got a car to slot through for that 3rd spot. From that 3rd spot to 2nd. AT making the pass on Curtis P9 in turn 1. There goes Ben. His charge continues here, making a move on JB. JB slightly deep there through turn 1. Ben might have a chance here. Going through turn 3. 10th cannon on the tail of both cars. Except behind her by about 2 seconds. Webbs is still holding to P4 here, doing a remarkable job. Move through the last corner here, or through the last few corners. Top 3 have pulled away here. Webbsy is about a second behind Imrie as it stands, so the DRS train is broken up. Gremio fastest lap here, so he's getting to work trying to establish an advantage. He was 7 tenths in front, but Che again closed that gap back down. And Che this time close enough to looking for a second, but if he had a longer straight then maybe, but not in this case. So Chase continues once again now, but with Che in the position as a chaser. So falling down the order here. Courtney Goblin moving into P16. Of course, two of those soft tyre styles are still in the running here. Both on that side of the points. As there goes Alvar challenging Cess now too. Close to contact there. Dan making the pass on Landon into turn 9 there. Keep an eye on that, because with the Landon to try and get back at him. But Dan pulling away by a few tenths there. Down the straight towards turn number 10. So good move there from the Haas driver to get him back into P7 again. Down 2 spots in the race start. Oh, sliding there through turn 12. Hung on to it there. On to lap 9. Che now close. Imrie also close as well. Che reclaims the lead as Cott makes the move on Webbsy for 4th place. Could we see a move for the back then? Not to be for the minute. JB not close to make a move on Ben, who's charging back to the order here. Ben, one of the cars, up 4 places along with Ethan and Courtney Goblin. Alvar's down 4, so not a fantastic race from so far. He's the biggest dropper in this Grand Prix in terms of raw pace. Obviously, EJ down 9, but he retired. Again, top 3 awfully close here. Imrie wide there at turn 9, whether that could be a warning, I'm not too sure. Gap stretching out a bit more now. More or less, as I said, it was closing up. And Cott keeping himself in DRS range only just there as I need turn 14. On to lap number 10 now. This Grand Prix is flying by. Back into turn 1. And Grumio can't do it for now. A few cars pitting here. Hard tires on Pope. So looking at the end of the first stint for a number of cars. Ethan away. Medium tyres on for him. JB, look at mediums as well. So a few cars stopping then. And everyone now needs mediums or hard tyres. Pope on the hards there. What's the game plan to try and go longer in his second stint? Can he try the one stop? Will it work? We'll have to wait and see. And Courtney Goblin, after 10 laps, gets the first penalty of the evening. 3 seconds, multiple warnings. So it's not counting the penalty EJ got for speed in the pits. 10 seconds. Grumio getting close here. On to lap 11, where we'll be a third of the way through the Grand Prix next time by. And the pass he made. Another lead change. Again, Imrie and Cott, both of them are chasing that winless streak. can't make their moves yet as Dan gets back past Websy there for P5. So Dan back where he started. And looks to try and close and help his teammate forward. Ted Cannon in the pit lane now. Hard tyres on that car. Aston Martin leaves the pit lane. Grumio trying to stretch his lead now. It's been a cat and mouse game so far. Just constant back and forth between these two cars. And neither one of them seems to have the edge so far. But when will we see tyres come into play for the front runners? Grumio 8/10 in front and Che not gaining too much here. Dan and Webb's both out of DRS range of each other. Dan out of DRS range of Cop. Ben into the pit lane here. His charge is about, he's got to P11 now. Of course, getting a number of places, some cars pitting. So we'll fall back down to, looks like perhaps even P17 here, maybe P18. Medium tires on, he is away. And Che trying to reel Grumio back in now. And Imri this time out of DRS range. And will that be a concern? Coming through turn 13 again, Grumio in control. 8/10 in front, and Imri, I think this time may have just missed DRS. Yes, he has. It's been a merry chase, but he's going to lose a fair bit of time now to Che. And when you're out of DRS range once on a circuit like this, that could be game over for any higher spots in the meantime. Imri's best bet might be to try and get hit on strategy if he can. Everyone's on that same set of medium tyres, so imagine they're running the one stop. And as we found ourselves last season, it's again Grumio and Che heading the field. Curtis in the pit lane here, so off of that first stint. And soft tyres for Curtis. Of course, his teammate also took those tyres. Curtis emerging in P13 and looking for a strong second stint. Ethan the first car in front of him by 1.2 seconds, 1.1 now. JV in behind him. So there's your cars that have made stops in this Grand Prix. We're waiting here on the top 10, on everyone except in the top 10 except for Pope and of course Alvar, they're P11. Obviously Dan can afford to go a bit longer on those hard tyres. As Imri pits for the first time. So first those cars in the top threes come in. And it'll be a hard tyre change. Imagine Imri's going to the end on those. So that just leaves Grumio and Che by themselves and to fight it out on track. But Grumio now pulling a lead. And pace with the pit stops could be what tries to help Grumio build an advantage. .6 in front now for Grumio. So Che out of DRS range. Dan in P3. Cop P4. Websy P5. Imri emerged in P7 there. The gap to the leader is 24.2 seconds from me. He's got Pope on his tail. Pope's been on those hard tyres for a few laps already. So the question is, can Pope get any closer? As Che and Cop both pit for the first time. So Che getting up the chase. Grumio 4 seconds to run to Dan. Again, we'll try and go longer on that first stint. Now, where does Imri emerge in front of Che? I think he may miss out. Down the main straight. Che looking for that pit exit. Trying to break the toe of Pope. There is the Haas. So Che gets that back in front of Imri as Pope trying to make a move for a second there. Imri now, I think, back within DRS range of Che. So as the Haas gets his tyres back up to temperature, the Red Bull can try and close in. But Grumio and Dan then staying out. Majority of cars have made stops here. Just wait till an Alvar and order the top three to come in. But exciting race so far then, but Grumio has begun to extend his lead. And then he comes now. Just kept the outside wall there, going into the pits. And he's got himself down to speed in time. Of course, we've seen Grumio many times in the past lose races thanks to 10-second penalties in the pits. But likely it'll be hard tyres for him. Yep, there they are. Williams make the change his way. Che at the last corner. Grumio at the pit exit. This might be a bit closer than we thought. It's Imri going for second place off of Che there. Or net second place at least. Imri's turn 1, now the net P2. But outside of DRS range from Grumio. So Grumio's lost time in the pits, I should think. And Imri nearly in DRS range and back in the game once again. And Pope behind these guys too. Longer first stint. But now in a net 4th. The question is, how long will Dan go on his tyres and when will he pit and where will he emerge? He's 15.7 seconds in front of Grumio. So the 4 cars behind should all start chasing him down on fresh tyres. So we're past halfway now this race pretty much. And Dan will probably go for as long as he can. I imagine we'll see him around to about lap 20 or so at this stage. Yellow flag. Oh, Alvar's out. Crash at turn 9. And the safety car's been deployed. And Dan may have missed his chance. Safety car deployed. What could that mean for strategy? And Dan fortunately got out in front of the safety car, so won't lose too much time. Might be able to get a free pit stop in here, potentially. I think now's as good a time as any to pit for him. Curtis coming in, taking full advantage of the free stop. Obviously he'll lose track position, but he'll be on fresh tyres here. He can get onto a set of hards. He's away. No interruptions in the pit lane. No stoppages. That might have come at the perfect time for Dan then. And he may not lose a place. But Alvar there going off at turn 9. And our second retiree in this Grand Prix is everyone from P10 to P17 in the pit lane. Everyone away now. Hard tyres for everyone except for mediums for Landlord. So it's just Landlord and Ericsson as it stands right now on those tyres. Ericsson onto his used hards. So Landlord then the only car on the fresh mediums. Everyone else on hards. But I imagine that Dan may join him in a second. 17.5 second gap, almost 18 seconds from Dan to Grumio. It's going to be close. But Dan may well emerge in the lead of this Grand Prix, perhaps. He's got the car slowed down in time. And I think Dan may still lose out, potentially. When will that Delta time back off? It's going to be very close here as Grumio rounds the last corner. And getting back up to speed. It's going to be tight. And there is Dan. Race down to turn 1. And Grumio just gets ahead. So Grumio then maintains his lead. But Dan is now right behind him on fresh mediums. What could that mean? And gaining several places there after losing spots from the start. And with 15 laps to go, this race is now anyone's game once again. Pack now neutralised, and everyone on relatively fresh tyres, save for 10th on those hard for 7 laps. Courtney Goblin's hard tyres are using, I think he's got a spare lap on those, so perhaps around a set of mediums DM perhaps. What are Mercedes planning? Yes. Fresh set of mediums now on for Courtney Goblin. Sacrificing track position, he'll emerge in P18. But can he try and get himself up towards the points? Courtney, one of 2 drivers yet to score a point this season. The other car hasn't yet scored, has just passed him for 17th. That's Ericsson. Now, it could be a lap or 2 here before we get back to racing. So we're looking at around 13, 14 laps to go. And we get the green flag. Up to Dan now to get his tire up to temperature for this restart. And what could be a very entertaining restart too. Anyone's guess. If anyone wants to guess in the chat, feel free, but I wouldn't want to call it. You'd think Grumio is the overwhelming favourite here, but damn, those medium tyres could really play into things here. But will those tyres start to wear out towards the end of the Grand Prix while Grumio's hards and the cars behind him on hards should maintain their pace? We're on to lap 19 now. And 10th place Curtis only just joining up with the tail end of the train. Courtney Goblin with the last car around. We've got 8 more cars to form up. So we may get a restart this time. If we get to around turn 13 and Ericsson and Courtney aren't yet there, then we'll go again for another lap. And from there, it'll be 13 laps. Now, we've sim paced out several cars today, in particular Grumio, Imri and Che have been the leaders for the entire way so far, save for those pit stops where Dan led. But Dan now in second place on the fresh mediums, looking to gain big time out of this. Of course, any points, if he can get himself in front of Grumio, any points in there are good points. Remember, 62 points is the gap. As it stands right now, that gap goes up to 69 in favour of Grumio should he win the race and Dan finish second. And there's no guarantee that either one of those 2 things happen. Dan could finish lower than second. Grumio may not win the race. But it's a solid chance here for Dan to try and beat Grumio on track. Dan obviously has emerged as Grumio's closest title chaser this season. And looking for 2 wins on the trot. Now, will the safety car come in this lap? I think Courtney may well catch up in time, potentially. We may get a very late call here, so fingers on buttons and pedals, feet to pedals. And Courtney will catch up here. Yes, he will. Safety car in this lap. Right, 14 laps to go then. And it's anyone's game here. Grumio will lead away. Safety car making the turn, the hard right turn into the pit lane now. Grumio backing them all up. Looking for a good exit. He's the master of these restarts. And there he goes. Dan keeping with him though. Back to racing here. 14 to go. And Imri on Dan's tail. Dan closing a bit there for the run towards turn 1. Can they move to the inside? It can be a send from Dan potentially. Looking at turn 1. Not going to try it. Locks up a bit through that first corner. Imri on his tail. And there goes Alan on the inside of Ethan going through turns 1 and 2. And Landor gets in front. The first racing laps on those medium tyres for Landlord. Courtney Goblin 3 seconds. That's 6 seconds for him now. He's the only car to get a track limit penalty tonight so far. Grumio from Dan, Imri, Chain, cut your top 5. And Dan practically substituting in for his teammate here. But Imri is close. No DRS for another lap here. Imri locks up now. Grumio has done what he needs to do. He's maintained pace on the restart. Can he try and build a lead? With Dan behind him on the fresher, faster tyres, I'm not too sure. His 10th falls down 2 spots here. She's out the points paying places now. Her teammate Ethan right on her tail, lifting to let her teammate go score points for the team. JB right behind, DRS in play. What will pure slipstream do for Dan? On the run towards turn 1, Dan makes his move to the outside. Defends downstairs. Bit of contact between the 2 leaders here, but Dan, for the first time today, leads the Spanish Grand Prix out of turn 2 into turn 3. Che pulling away from Cott now. Top 4 breakaway at the front of the field. 2 Alpines following, giving chase in P5, P6, 18. That Chrome McLaren runs P7, Pope in P8, Curtis 9th, and Landlord completes your points paying places. Ethan and 10th cannon behind in P12 and P11. JB, then HB Cook and Ben. Obsessed, Ericsson, Cotney. The rest of your order. And Dan here, half second in front of Grumio. And getting to work and pulling away. He's strong. He pulls away by a few car lengths here on the run towards turn 9. What can Imri do from third place here? Looking for an opportunity to try and close some time on Grumio. To try and find a way around the reigning champion. Obviously still riding that long winning streak for 2 seasons now. Nearing 2.5. Cott's in the same boat back there in P5. And less likely to win this race. Dan here through turn 14. He's got 6/10 on Grumio now. This is where DRS comes back into play. Fastest lap for Dan then, 1:14.5. Only 2 cars into a 14th, and the other one is the car chasing him for the race lead. Grumio then to turn 1. Pope gets a penalty there, 3 seconds. Only the second car to get one tonight. Track looks been fantastic Hope on here, I think overall. And there'll be a third of the race left when we cross the line. And Dan not really extending that advantage for now. Can't push these tyres too much, but Grumio may try and force him into an error of some kind. Try and force him to push those tyres. Through turn 13 again. The top 3 still pulling away a bit here. Chase still with these guys, but it's a bit further back. Imri is looking at Grumio off turn 4, a bit wide on, off turn 14, sorry, a bit wide on corner exit, but Grumio DRS with a good run on Dan. And Imri again just can't get himself involved. Back towards turn 1. Dan keeps his lead. There goes Pope past AT into 1. And it's 3 seconds from there back to Landlord in P9, so Pope may well still get a point to pay in place out of this one. But Landlord is saying that it's closing in big time on those fresh medium tyres. He's in the same sort of boat as Dan is. Single file the rest of the way back. Obsessed trying to challenge Ericsson. Still side by side these guys with P16 here. Obsessed looking on the outside and clears Ericsson, maintains the place. But all eyes are on this chase for the lead. Che going a bit wide there through turn 11 brings DRS rise back into play. So Dan with 10 laps left leads the team by 8/10. Websy passing quite into the first corner. The 2 Alpines again trading places. Both of them on for a good day points-wise. 18 points going that team's way. They can keep things how they are. As he hopes something's go wrong for the corner cars up front. But Dan holding strong here. And not letting Grumio get close enough to make a move. The question now is, how good is Dan at managing those tyres? He's got to keep those things going for 9 laps here. 15 laps on the mediums is no easy feat. And Cotton Websy again trading places here. Cott back into P5. Spoke McLaren in the points as well. 2 seconds covering them. AT has been on it compared to Landlord tonight. It's a well-rounded lineup. It's a well-rounded lineup from McLaren. It's fantastic to see those 2 cars dueling each week for points. Grumio this time just 4/10 back from Dan to start lap 25. Fastest lap for the hard tyre. Williams on the run down towards someone. Imri falling away here. Might find us under pressure from Che. But Grumio again not close enough. Is he perhaps keeping himself in line and waiting until very late on in the race to make his move? We've seen him do it around here before. Will he try and cause the other Haas pain as he did the Haas driver of Che at Ferrari last year? And Che perhaps watching a case of deja vu playing out in front of his eyes. watching his teammate go through what he went through. But Dan, though, looking to bring that gap down to the championship to just 55 points. Just over 2 race wins. Grumio a lot closer this time than he was last time round. Can Imrie get involved? Put Grumio under a bit more pressure here. Of course, he's been on his tyres the longest. The only driver who's got more worn tyres is 10th. He's been on no hard to 14 laps. Lap 26 down, and Grumio again closing in. Not enough. I think when we may see him start to harvest in the ERS. Imrie seemed slightly more sloppy through turn 1 that last time round. Because he still fights for a podium here to get himself back in front of Landlord in the standings, up to P4. Maybe even P3 if he can get himself into, perhaps into... he could win the race and take away P3 in the standings from Che. But all focus on Dan as HP Cook passes 10th Cannon. Ben trying to challenge 2. Of course, Ben was a lot faster early on in the Grand Prix in the first stint. Can he try and take 10th Cannon? Train here in front being led by Curtis, who I think finds himself in a spot deja for himself, leading the train with 7 laps to go, and they cross the line next. Currently holding on to the last point for Ferrari after his teammate retired very early on in the Grand Prix. JB wanting that point off him after a P15 start. This point into Q2 for JB. Can he try and take that point away to add to Grumio's tally for Williams up front? 7 laps to go, and Grumio close this time. Dan defends the inside. Grumio with a bit of a toe there. Making us move around the outside into turn 1. The 2 leaders side by side. Dan is still there, locks him a little bit into turn 1, and Grumio moves back in front. And how calculating could the last few laps have been of lying in wait behind Dan? How much has Dan pushed his tyres now? And could it leave Dan out of the picture? And will Imrie look to try and take advantage of both of them here? Lock up for Imrie into turn 5. Grumio trying to force the issue now, trying to stretch the advantage. Dan trying to keep with him. Half second separating them here. And we'll see what kind of run Dan gets out of turn 14 in half a lap's time. But he's 6 seconds back now. I want to try and keep it close now. Everyone that top 4 save for Imrie, the same amount of battery more or less. Curtis behind, still holding on to P10 here. Keep an eye out of that. He's more or less leading the rest of the pack round. He's got 8 cars behind him. And a Ferrari-led freight train off into the last sector. As Grumio leads the 4-car train off of turn 14. 6 laps left. And Dan closing, but I think he's close enough to go for a move this time. So he'll stay in line. Can he try and maintain that advantage? Will he fall prey to Imrie behind? The Alpines here leading Pope now. He's got himself into DRS range, both of them. He's put 4 seconds on AT. Because he only got 3 seconds penalty-wise, so he's on course for a P7 finish right now for Mercedes. Obviously, we'll lose a fair few points to Imrie in the championship, but Imrie in 3rd place there. And now up front, it's the sort of time where a penalty could really shift the picture. If Grumio perhaps gets one late on. Not entirely sure in terms of warnings where everyone is. There'll be 5 laps to go next time round, and we've seen Dan and Grumio get a bit close for comfort in the turmoil. Imrie goes wide there. Oh, I thought someone was flying for circuit for a second there. I think that's just my game bugging. That looked to be quite dangerous there, but all looks okay. You saw the gravel fly and everything there. 5 laps to go though. Dan a bit close this time round than he was last. Closing in, but again, not close enough. Both cars harvesting ERS. Imrie still lacking a fair bit for him. How much does that cost him right now? Is it perhaps costing him a go at the 2 leaders? Che has been utterly replaced on the podium here by his teammate. As both cars chasing a podium finish for the team. Grumio just can't pull away here, but Dan can't get much closer than he is right now. These guys all look to be harvesting ERS for that final showdown on the last lap. AT has pulled 3.4 seconds on Landlord now. Curtis, 2.5 back, still leaves that train to JB and everyone else behind, which remains unchanged since we last saw it. Cottony Gobbler's made a stop here on those soft tyres. He's down in P18 now, locked finish there. 4 laps remaining. And Grumio still leads. Both cars did battery this time, but Dan using it a little bit more and closing a bit more this time. And again, Imri and Che with less battery can't get themselves involved. Grumio doing just enough to maintain his lead in the DRS zones. Yellow flag. Oh, Che's off. Che and the gravel, they're leaving turn 3. Recovers the car. But there we have it. And the Haas driver denied what could have been a chance at a podium finish, leaving just 3 cars chasing for the win there. Che through the gravel late on, and that'll cost him more points in the championship. So it's down now to Grumio, down and Imri. Imri, though, falling away a little bit here. He's 7 tenths back from Dan. Will need to get himself a lot closer now. Want to try avoiding the same mistake as Che just made, as perhaps Cotton Websey could be sniffing at a podium potentially should something go wrong with one of the cars in front. Grumio now 8 tenths, 9 tenths in front of Dan. Good last sector for Grumio here. 3 laps to go and he maintains control. And Imri there, not enough batteries to do anything from P3. And I wonder if that's what's costing him right now. But Grumio is still half a second in front even after the main straight at turn 1. Che and P7 under pressure from AT now going towards that first corner. Oh, and there goes Websey there. Websey, and at the same point where Cott found the end to a few laps in qualifying, Websey now finds its end too. Che back into P6, AT P7, Websey down the order now. And Cott left by himself to fend off Pope, who of course will likely maintain P5 now. Has that 3-second penalty, so won't take P4 should to go for Cott unless Cott also spins out. Which is every chance. Does Dan have anything left here for Grumio? The main straight is sort of the peak opportunity, and I think if Dan can't get close to make a move next time round or the time after this, then that could be Grumio's, that's his 7th win from 9 rounds. 2 laps left this time by. Grumio again, much better exit out of turns 13 and 14. Imri again is still stuck behind these two, just watching them fight it out. And Dan needs to keep himself on pace this lap. Those medium tyres are worn now. He's been in them for 14 laps. He needs to keep himself in range. Perhaps try to go for one last move. So using some of his batteries to try and keep himself in position. But going through the grass a bit there at turn 4. That won't help his case. But of course, Grumio I think will be likely saving ERS for the last few for the laps to the main straight in the last lap. Controlling things at the front as he has done for the majority of the Grand Prix. He's a lap and a half from win number 7 here in season 19 of the Racers Driving League. Dan almost a second back this time. And this could be the race. If Dan doesn't get DRS, then it could be game over for him. And Imri could put him under pressure for second place. And Dan, I think he's going to miss out on DRS, right? So Grumio then in control of the lap to go. Can Imri try to do anything for second place with DRS in play? Better lap here in Spain. And Grumio may have just finished Dan off here. Dan is at great advantage then of the safety car coming out to take P2, but it won't be enough for the win, I shouldn't think, unless Grumio makes a mistake on this last lap, which could still happen. No one count the chickens just yet. A time penalty would put Grumio behind both cars here. Imri can hope for second at best. It looks like it'll be P3 on the road from today. Curtis still holding that last point over JB with a lap to go. Will there be a late change back there? Grumio keeping the car steady here. Through turn 9 for the last time here. He's led them. He's led comfortably the majority of the way. Che gave him pressure. Che's fallen away with that spin a few laps ago. Dan gave him pressure. Dan couldn't make a move here. 10th can in the round. Down at turn... Sorry, I made a mistake. Down at turn number 4. JB penalty. And that'll move him down the order big time there. Well, no points for JB. Curtis may hang on. But it's time to hang it on. Grumio 1.6 in front now as he rounds turn 14 for career win 122. It's Salve Grumio who wins 7 races from 9 and wins the Spanish Grand Prix. Down in second, Imri in third. Cott was like a fantastic P4 finish for Alpine. Pope in P5 and will maintain that spot. Che, disappointing result in the end, P6 for him. AT P7, a good race from McLaren there. Websy will beat Home Landau for P9 and Curtis will nab the last point for Ferrari. JB then will lose a few places here. Ethan P11, HP Cook P12, Ben P13. There's JB, Obsessed, Ericsson, 10th Cannon, and Courtney Goldman in the last car round. He'll take P18. Because Alvar and EJ go down as DNFs in this one. But there then is your race winner. Grumio opens his lead up a bit more then, up to 69 points in the Drivers' Championship. Victory today, a 7th victory of the season. And again, no stopping Grumio as the march towards perhaps a 10th RDL Championship continues. And 122 career wins. You can't really deny this guy at all. Dan in second, valiant effort today. Took fantastic decision to take full advantage of that safety car. Going longer on that first stint paid off for him. Imri in third, round the leaders all day, couldn't really get close enough to them. But still a fantastic and consistent drive and definitely what he needs after a tough race last week. But a brilliant race then. And we'll see if we can have a look at your final results from this race. So Grumio then winner, fastest lap, driver of the day, and most overtakes go to Ethan. Dan with his cleanest driver. Grumio wins it then from Dan second, Imri in third, Cott takes fourth, Pope in fifth, Che, AT, Websy, Landau and Curtis. Round out your top 10. Ethan in P11, HP Cook P12, Ben P13, JB then Obsessed. Of course, JB that penalty late on. Obsessed P15, Ericsson 16th, 10th Cannon 17th, Courtney Goldman 18th, and Alvar and EJ both go down as retirements from this Grand Prix. Tough race for those two. And tough for Che as well. You've got to feel for Che after he contended the entirety of that first stint against Grumio. So that'll do it then for coverage in terms of your racing action. But of course, post-race interviews still yet to get underway. And we'll see if we can catch for a brief chat following that one. Very enjoyable Grand Prix from start to finish. The post-race interviews on the verge of getting underway here. And we'll see if we can get a chat. Pope there coming through. Pope in, if I double check my results screen, bear me a second, Pope. I'll just make sure I know where you're at.
P5.
What I hear P5, yeah? Okay, yeah, I got it there.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, solid result overall. It was a tough race, I think, as a whole. I mean, how did you find out there?
It was all right. It's just annoying that I'm not being able to kind of get rid of that qualifying bug, which I think probably would have helped. But I think my setup was just a bit poor, to be honest, this race. Everyone was either running quite high downforce or dramatically low downforce. And I was in the middle and I thought, oh, it'll be better for the race. It wasn't. It was awful. And then my race strategy was a bit messed up with the safety car, but you know, P5, it should have been P7 really, if it wasn't for Che and Webster's spins, but you got to take what you get.
Yeah, of course, the charge towards the end there, obviously had that penalty late on and managed to come through and basically neutralise that in the end, which was good.
Yeah, I mean, that was the main thing, especially when Che's closing down on you. It's quite a daunting sight. But yeah, it's annoying to get a penalty, but at least it didn't affect my race, is the main thing. 10 points on the board's still pretty good. I think out the first 5 races, my first 5 races compared to everyone's 5 races that they start the season with, I've scored the most amount of points apart from Grumio. I've done a bit of maths, so I've got pace and I'm just getting results. So just need to make sure I'm getting a little bit higher up, maybe P4 and P3s.
Well, it saves me doing the maths, which works out quite nicely. Obviously, in terms of next week's race, Canada next time out, what's the game? What's the game plan there? Are we targeting perhaps another podium finish?
My game plan is to have a couple drinks and enjoy Prague because I'm not here next week,
Ah,
unfortunately.
well, there we go
I'm
then.
away on holiday, so just enjoy some beers and yeah, have a bit of a relax and hopefully come back and be able to qualify.
With that in mind, then, with that information in hand, I must ask: is the drive to win an RDL, to win a second RDL championship still there?
Not this season, no. In general, yeah, I'd love to. I just this season, I 3 races too late, and Grumio's just too good, unfortunately. But I feel like if I had the first 3 races, I think P2 might have been a challenge for me this season. But yeah, I'm not too sure. We'll have to see.
I have to wait and see. Indeed, well, obviously not the last of Pope. We'll see next. We'll see, but obviously it won't be here for next week then. So we'll catch him, I believe, in Austria, which will be the next Grand Prix after Canada. Memory
Yes,
something right?
that's right.
Bingo. Okay, right. So we'll move on now to one of our 2 returnees for this week. 10th Cannon comes home in the MP17 10th. Obviously, pace was there over the course of the Grand Prix, but perhaps not the result we wanted. Are you pleased with that?
No, not at all. I think I should have been at least P14, but I spun on the last lap and I kind of threw it away. But I mean, I think for what I had, I think. Oh shit! I've just clicked Discord. I think for what I had, where I was running was kind of to be expected, to be honest. I knew I wasn't going to be as fast as I was when I was full time. I barely had any experience on the game, but to not be, dead last, seconds off the pace, it's kind of all I could really ask for. Hell, I made Q2, which is good enough for me.
Yeah, I did want to ask in terms of the adjustment. I mean, was there much adjustment getting into the new game? Obviously, with a few new drivers in the field.
Yeah, the game handles a lot more differently than I expected it to. There's a lot more on throttle time, which I think I mentioned in the chat when I was qualifying. There's a lot more. There's a lot of it does handle a lot different, and I didn't expect it to. And yeah, I figured that I would be. I figured that I would struggle a bit, but I think I wasn't expecting to have as many spins as I did. That was a bit annoying, but I held my own on much older hard tires than everyone else once the safety car ended, and I still managed to stick in the DRS train for most of it. So I think I'm still pretty proud of what I did.
Yeah, I don't blame you. I mean, obviously going the distance on hard tires is easier said than done, but you managed to make it work, and obviously got
Yeah.
the DM, which is the main thing. I mean, and in terms of obviously going into the rest of the season, will this be the last time we see you 10th, or could there be a few more appearances here and there?
I think you'll see me again. I've got the game now, so it would be a waste of 50 quid if I didn't come back again. Yeah, I've spent the money now. I might as well do some more races. If I'm needed, then I guess I'll come back for some more.
We'll have to wait and see. If you had the choice, would there be a certain track you want to reserve for?
Now, what was my best track? I don't know, to be honest, because I think with the DRS train still being a thing, they're all a bit samey, really. But one race I would like to see, what I'd like to be back for is Vegas, because if anything's going to be a lottery, it's Vegas. I don't like driving Vegas in particular, but I know that other people also don't like driving Vegas, so I know I'm not alone there. Brazil will also be a nice one to come back for, and the reverse Silverstone 100% race. I think that's the end of the season. I'd like to do that as well.
I'll have to see if we can pencil you in for those days in particular to perhaps run another race. Well, obviously, fair job. Obviously
Yeah.
on returning to the league and obviously getting us a bit more of a race. And we'll come now to our other returnee from today. Obsessed Game Mode came in after a few weeks' absence. Obsessed, welcome back into the stream, mate. P15 in the end. I mean, how did you feel the pace was today?
I think that the pace was definitely there. I think if I had a little more time to practice, it definitely would have been a lot better. But yeah, I struggled with tire wear pretty much the entire race. I think lap 5 or 6 on my softs, I had like 50% wear already. on the left side of my car, so it was just downhill from there. But I think it was the pace was definitely there.
Which is always good to see after obviously only been a few weeks since your last start back in Bahrain. Of course, that safety car came in around midway through the Grand Prix. Did that have any impact on strategy at all for you?
Um, yeah, so I was running the two stop. So I was gonna go soft, medium, medium. But since the safety car came out about 5 laps earlier than my pit window, I switched to the hards instead of the mediums for the last stint, and I think that helped me pretty well.
Yeah, I mean, I'd say so. Obviously, pace was there over the course of the Grand Prix. Obviously, P15 at the flag. I mean, you were in that train, sort of running to try and score points towards the end. Was there any hope of moving up in that train?
I don't think so. I think that my pace tapered off at the end, and I could not catch Ben at all. Like the gap just stayed at a constant, like plus +0.5. Like I could not get within anywhere near him to make a move. So
So sort of stagnated towards the end of the race, yeah.
yeah.
Okay. Obviously, I'll ask you a last question. So obviously, I know the situation has changed for you since you stepped down as a full-time driver. But is there a chance we'll see you anymore over the course of the season?
Yeah, I sure hope so. I sure hope so.
I mean, the hope is there. That's the main thing. And obviously, we all enjoy having you. So hopefully, we'll see you again at some stage. But obviously, good job. Thank you for coming back and obviously reserving this race for us. Much appreciated. And obviously, good race overall,
Yep.
given the time off. And we'll come now to our last point scorer, Curtis, who came home P10. And Curtis holding off that train to the flag. Curtis, was there any pressure from JB at all towards the end of the Grand Prix?
I seem to have the straight line speed to not have to worry about it too much. Just I've always struggled on the hard tires in this game, and just again had no front end grip. So, but luckily I seem to have running less wing than everyone else. So I was never really under that much pressure.
I did want to ask about qualifying, because obviously you got yourself into Q3 again. I mean, I think you guys at Ferrari have been a bit more consistent in qualifying recently. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, to no point at all, because these guys are so goddamn quick. So we're just there to make up numbers so we can get into Q3. But it's good to be consistent for a change.
Obviously, Ferrari still sort of chasing the order in the constructors. You guys were P9 coming into today, and you'll close a bit on Aston Martin as a result. 6 points behind now. Is that a gap you guys think you can close?
Yeah, why not? I mean, I've only at one Aston Martin one full-time driver was here today to score points. So as long as we both keep turning up and keep consistent and racking the points up, I don't see why not.
And obviously, looking more immediate, do you guys think you can perhaps get another score next week in Canada?
Obviously I can't speak much for EJ, but Canada is very much a wheel circuit, especially on this game, and I do have a wheel, so that does put me at an advantage. And I don't see. I love Canada. I enjoy the challenge of Canada. It's also a very high track limit penalties track, which is something I'm quite good at not getting. So as long as I don't put myself on one of the walls, it should be all right.
Do you know what? I will hold you to that track limits thing next week, and we'll see whereabouts we end up. But obviously, fair dues on the points today. One more point on the board for the Drivers and Constructors Championships. We'll come now to Dan, who of course come home in second place at the end. Dan, I want to know what was the first thought when you came in when that safety car came out?
I was hoping that I'd have enough of a gap to lead the train, but I think as soon as the inevitable, he crossed the line and he could ignore the delta for a bit, then yeah, it was just he was always going to take the lead, unfortunately. So I tried my best, but he's just another league at the moment. Very hard to compete with someone that strong, just that well-rounded and that relentless.
I mean, you gave him a fair chase on the mediums at the entirety of that safety over the course of the last 15 laps or so. I mean, what towards the end was the tires just sort of fall off, or was he just pulling away and you couldn't do much?
Yeah, I think with a couple, I think lap 31 in sector 3, I just got up on the curb a little bit, had a bit of a mistake, used a bit more overtakes than I'd like to try and get closer. and he was just able to save a bit on the straight and pull away, get me out of DRS, which, you know, I was going to try and go for a last lap. I felt confident. I was putting it into like ERS saving about halfway down the straight. A lot of the time I knew I'd have the pace to overtake him, but yeah, just a silly mistake. And those mediums at the end, they were fine, but the hards, you know, they came back and was a better tyre by the end of the race, which I sort of experienced as well by the end of my first stint on those hard tyres as well.
Fair enough. I mean, obviously, even with a second place finish, you extend your lead over Che, Landlord, and Imri in the fight for second place. Is that a gap you think you can maintain?
We'll have to see. I went through a bit of a stinky run this time last season, but I think like round 8 to maybe close to 18 last season, I didn't get a podium, but I've already got 2 on this one, so hopefully I can can continue this run in these 10 races or so.
I mean, so is Canada perhaps not one we're looking forward to, per se?
I always look forward to Canada. I do enjoy it as a track. I got you know, I was making mistakes last season there on my own. I didn't have Che with me either to keep me sane, so yeah, but I've got past that now. I can learn how to sort of drive by myself and with some others in the chat as well. So, yeah, I'm hoping for a better result than I think P5 last season.
We'll have to see what happens next week. Obviously, Fedo's on the podium. Good job there. Extend your lead in P2 in the championship. I'll come now last forward to JB, who unfortunately comes home P14 after the late penalty. JB, what happened on the last lap there?
Yeah, just I was chasing Curtis, who was in P10, and I was determined to try and get past him somehow. I should have backed off though, because there was an incident earlier on in the race with Landlord, and I think he'll get a penalty for illegally overtaking Ethan, and that would have put me into P10, but I hadn't registered it. So unfortunately, I just kept pushing too hard, and yeah, got the penalty in P14. So I haven't felt this disappointed over P10 in a long time. You know, when everyone turns up and you're in the points, it's something to be proud of. So yeah, annoying, but it was a good race, and there were some good battles.
Definitely an enjoyable one for me to watch, as much for you guys to drive. I will ask, obviously, later on in Q2, had the incident at turn 9. What happened there?
The whole lap was rubbish. Grumio gave me a tow. I gained a couple of tenths, and I think by turn 4 I was 4 tenths up, and I think I needed something like 8 to move to Q3. But then turn 5, 6, and then 7, so on. I kept running wide, and I'd lost most of the time. And then by the time I got to the fast right-hander, I spun. So yeah, just wanted to forget. It's frustrating because obviously starting a bit higher up, especially in this game where the DRS trains are so prevalent, it could have definitely helped me with scoring a point, but just one of those things. And yeah, Canada, not looking forward to that, because it's one of those, like Curtis was saying earlier, one of those track limit tracks, and I remember in the past getting 20 or something seconds in one race, so not expecting points there, but we'll try anyway.
I will also just cut things off. Were we pleased in terms of the race pace today?
I think so. I think most people did medium, hard, or medium, hard, medium, some variant of that. Because I did my medium stints first, I had a bit of an advantage when the safety car came out, because it meant I'd, not used the hard tyre early on, and I thought I would drop back once everyone was on the hards at the end, but actually I was able to keep up, and I passed Ethan, and then obviously I was right on the back of Curtis. So I'm happy with how the pace was, considering I didn't have a whole lot of practice. So it's something to look forward to, hopefully in the future, that I can keep up a bit more. Yeah.
So things to take then from this Grand Prix. Well, thank you guys all for showing up for post interviews, and that will do it then for coverage here of the Racers Driving League Season 19, Round 9 here in Spain. Next Grand Prix will be taking place on, if I check my calendar, on the 11th in Canada next week. Same time, same place in Zach Rossi channel. Make sure to get subscribed for more future audio content. Have a fantastic rest of your evening, and we'll see you guys next time. Goodbye.